In verse 39 of chapter 3, we learn that with a victorious upward moving energy, udāna, we can rise above the mud and the thorns. And this is one of those Yoga Sutras that we can really apply it to our yoga asana practice. I mean, we can apply it to a lot of places, but right here in our asana practice, in our physical practice, it's a wonderful Yoga Sutra to look at, because oftentimes the biggest complaint in our physical movement practice is that we feel stuck. We get to a place where we feel stuck, like we're spinning our wheels, stuck in the mud. And with that upward moving energy, which we're not really told how to generate that. How do we get that, let's call it inspiration, right? Inspiration to breathe in, to inhale, and that's partially, right? That's that energetic, that's the uplifting energy. But also movement itself is uplifting. Lots of research, pretty much it's unanimous. Exercise boosts our mood. Movement helps lift the spirit, helps bring energy, right? You never want to become static, stationary. And yet we allow ourselves often to get stuck in our yoga practice, whether it's because almost like a self-inflicted punishment, right? I have to master this, I have to do this, and I have to do it this way. Or also we felt like we're kind of kept in that place. Maybe we don't know another way. Now, Patanjali doesn't tell us exactly how, again, to lift that energy, to bring in that movement. But it's not much different than getting your vehicle, getting your car unstuck from the mud or unstuck from the snow, something I've had to learn living out here in Montana. And the very first way is to stop accelerating excessively. So oftentimes, one of the reasons we're stuck is that we just keep doing the same thing over and over. And when that's not working, we just apply more of the same thing over and over. A good example of this would be discipline. Discipline is a really good thing. Commitment is a really good thing. But there is such a thing as commitment bias, where we can be overly committed or too narrowly committed. Sometimes we can become so rigid in our mindset that we think that this is the only way. And so even though it appears that we're trying again and again, so we're doing something different because we're retrying, we're trying in the same way with the same mindset, especially if it's a mindset that's overly dogmatic or rigid, that allows no room to breathe. So we want to stop accelerating excessively. The next thing you do is get out of the car. Go look. Take a look around. Walk around the car. See where you're stuck. Assess the situation without movement. Do a little bit of reflection. We do this in our mentorship a lot. We take pauses various months, like some months through. We'll say, hey, how's it going? Check in. Are there any places you feel stuck? Any areas that you have questions or concerns? Take a moment outside of practice and let's reflect and review. Once you've done that, the third thing is to get rid of any excess weight. So any ideas, dogma, rigid thinking, irrational thinking, distorted thinking that you are holding onto in regards to your practice is only added weight. Expectations, especially unrealistic ones, especially ones that aren't generated from inside you, ones that are arbitrarily assigned, things we've absorbed, that we think we should do. That creates weight. Those are unnecessary burdens. Get rid of them. Get them out of the car. The third thing is, it's going to seem really obvious, but clear away the mud. Clear away the mud and lift up the vehicle a bit. I'll give you an example of this. I have a student in our mentorship, and Garbha Pindasana was really causing her some issue, as it can. And it was just landing. She just wasn't landing it. And so she would be fine all the way to that part of her practice. And then she'd get to Garbhapindasana. Of course, you got to keep trying. So you got to try 3 times. And each time, and every time she wouldn't land, she'd just feel heavier and heavier. And then that heaviness would sort of carry over into the rest of her practice. And so when we talked, I said, hey, get rid of it. No, don't get rid of the posture, but stop trying to land Garbhapindasana. Stop trying to land it. In fact, just jump. Just jump. Do frog jumps. So instead of trying to land, purposely don't land and just jump. Well, movement increases energy, period. Exercise increases energy. Jumping in particular can be very helpful. So what we did was we clear away the mud, clear away Garbhapindasana, added a little uplifting, put some jumping in there, right? And then move on. And so we'll see how that goes because this was just really recent, but I did the same thing with Bakasana B, for a little while. This year, just was feeling really heavy. And so I just decided, I'll come back to it. But for now, I'm not gonna land. I'm just gonna jump. I'm just gonna jump my hips up in the air and bring my feet down. Jump my hips up in the air and bring my feet down. I'll come back to it. We always do. But the thing is, it becomes a weight when we get to that place where we feel stagnant, where you get to that one posture where you're doing it over and over again and there's no progress and you lose all momentum. And that's where that stuck in the mud feeling comes from. So sometimes we just have to clear that away. Get rid of it. Put something that's more uplifting. Approach it in a more uplifting way, whatever that is. So I gave you one example, but I gave you 2 examples, but I could give you a whole bunch more. The next thing you do, or this is actually a different strategy than clearing away the mud and lifting the vehicle up. The other thing you can do is put something in front of the wheels so that they can sink into, give them some traction. So that's a good example of having a challenge in our practice, an additional challenge. So maybe you have been stuck at a certain place. Maybe you've been working with leg behind the head, and that one takes a long time. And you've been there for a really long time, and you're starting to feel that sinking feeling, really hard for you to go. Think about sinking in the mud, and now you're supposed to go to back bends, and you've just lost all your mojo. Well, give yourself a little challenge. Do the next few postures. Put them in there. Tittipasana. Maybe put in a pincha. Pincha is uplifting just because you're going upside down. So give yourself a little boost, give yourself a little challenge, something to work on, something exciting, novel. Give yourself something to sink your mind into, something different than what is dragging it down. Give it something to put it forward. That's that forward moving energy. That's what creates and continues momentum. So it's not about ticking boxes and mastering this so you can go on to this. It's looking at what you need. If you've been at a certain posture, you've been working with something for years and you haven't moved on, you need to move on. One of the things that I see very often, and I know I've spoken about it ad nauseum, but it kind of combines these last 2 strategies, and that is staying in primary series too long or doing it too often without intermediate series to offset. So if you think of back bends are uplifting in the way that it's the inhalation. It accentuates the inhalation. We're looking to expand and to broaden. So all by itself, back bends are going to bring energy up. Primary series is a lot of forward folding, a lot of grounding, right? Too much of it can become a little depressing. It can make you feel stuck. And so sometimes if we're not maybe standing up from a back bend, or if we don't feel confident about some of those second series back bends, we'll avoid doing them or have been told that we cannot do them and stay excessively long in primary series for, again, either self-imposed reasons or reasons outside of you. In either case, it's really detrimental, not just to your practice, but to your mood in general, because we know that your practice lingers through the day. It sets the tone, right? So if you are lacking energy and feeling stuck in your practice, I guarantee you that that is carrying on into your day. I guarantee you that you don't just leave that on the mat, that it is something, it's like a residue that kind of sticks with you. Or maybe that's how you're feeling in your life in general, and then you bring that to your practice. Well, your practice is supposed to offset that. It's supposed to kind of look at life and bring balance to this. So if you're feeling rather stuck, rather heavy, we need those back-bending postures. We need those postures of intermediate series to kind of bring the energy back up, to boost the mood. There are times we need the grounding of primary, absolutely. But we have to be careful that you don't stay stuck there. And if you've been practicing primary alone, solely, for 5 years, and 5 years is, I mean, I'll probably, if I was working with you, say less than that, but 5 years, you have to move on. For your own sake, add in those uplifting. It gives us the challenge, something to sink into. It lifts the vehicle up, gives you that uplifting, and it clears away some of the mud because it gets rid of some of the postures, especially if you've been practicing primary for a really long time. You know, for me, I don't practice a lot of primary anymore. I'm a pretty grounded person in life in general. Yeah, my daily life is very, very grounded, very rooted here in this earth, my hands in the dirt, you know, kind of literally. What I actually need at this age, also 58, it's a time when a woman's energy dips a bit. I need those second series postures to kind of bring that uplifting, to bring that sense of enthusiasm, inspiration in both a figurative way and also a very literal way, that inhalation. Yeah, so to lift your spirits, remember this. If you've been practicing primary too long, it's time for that upward moving energy. There's one more thing that can also really, really help, and that's to get some people behind your vehicle and help give it a push. I think sometimes that's what our mentorship is, and that's what these courses through the path are, especially the gatherings. They're gathering people to kind of help us create that momentum. That's what community does. That's what friendship does. It gives us that support from behind. You know, we're not alone in it. We have some help. We have that support. But other ways that you can create momentum, not just through other people, but are things like music. Music can really help at times. I know that that can be taboo, but there are times when I'm feeling pretty stagnant and uninspired, and putting on a little bit of piano music, something to lift the energy in the room, because I practice by myself. It can be really lonely and tiring. A little bit of music helps fill the room. Sometimes taking your mat outside can do that. Nature can do that. Or having a practice buddy. You know, it doesn't have to be a big community. Or your online communities, right? Like I said, online communities. We create networks and friendships and connections in many, many different ways. And these definitely are helpful in creating that upward moving, forward moving energy. And once we have all of those things, all you got to do, keep your wheels straight and give it a little gas, right? That's what discipline is. It's not accelerating excessively. It's not doing the same thing over and over again. It's doing all the things that we just talked about. It's kind of coming to the mat with a sense of openness, creativity, inspiration, enthusiasm that we can generate. And also, we can clear out the stuff that holds us back. Once we kind of, with all those things in place, then discipline is simply keep your wheels straight, give it a little gas. That's it. If you get stuck again, you know what to do.